Hello, and thank you for participating in the Young Azov of Woodmere AseresYemei video initiative. There's a striking line in the Maseches Kedushin that ultimately offers us a vision in our own path of tshuva during these high holy days. The Gemara, in discussing various cases where a person betrothed with a certain condition attached, discusses the following case. A man turns to a woman and says, Hareyat mekudeshesli, behold, you are betrothed to me, almanash she'ani tzaddik, on condition that I'm a righteous man. Says the Gemara, afilu hu rasha gamor, even if this person previously was a rasha gamor, a wicked, evil individual, mikudeshes, she is betrothed. The past bears no relevance. Almanash she'ani tzaddik will work. And the truth of the matter is that this is a very difficult line of Gemara to digest. After all, the Rambam, in the very first parak of Hilchos Teshuva, tells us that when a person violates a mitzvah saseh or lo saseh, a person violates a positive or negative command by purpose or by mistake, and comes to do tshuva, the Rambam lists that the fundamental requirement for tshuva is vidui, confession. A person has to articulate what they did. A person has to come clear, true to themselves in terms of what the actions of their past. And as we do, al-chet, clap on their chests, determine it in a very firm and fixed way by literally verbalizing their past actions. Seen in this light, tshuva is something that requires this level of confession. If that's so, how could the Gemara possibly tell us that in the case where this rasha gamor goes ahead and just declares, marry me, that I'm a righteous person, that would be mekudeshes? And the Minchas Chinuch is bothered by this very question and offers a number of answers. But his last answer, I believe, is very instructive for us in our own path for tshuva during this time. The Minchas Chinuch, which is in his words amplified also within the Sefer Emek Yehoshua, basically draws a distinction between two elements. There's an aspect of kapara, an aspect of atonement involved in the tshuva process, but there's also an aspect of what we call a tikkun mikan lahaba, repairing something for the future. For the Emek Yehoshua and the Minchas Chinuch, yes, it's true that in the case of the Rambam, to truly have that high level of kapara, that atonement that we strive for, which Yom HaKippur embodies in its essence as a day of slicha and kapara, that requires vidui. And anything minus that will not achieve that level of pure atonement. But that is not to say that anything less than that is zero. When the Gemara tells us that the person who says, marry me because I'm a tzaddik, even though he's a rasha gamor, maybe he didn't say vidui, and he hasn't gone to shul yet to klap al chet. But for this person, they have declared that mikan la'aba, from here on in, they will change. There's no intention in their minds to go forward from this day carrying the events of the past. They want to change, and they're declaring that in the future they will be someone different. Yesterday, maybe even this morning, this fellow was a rasha gamor. But today, in betrothing his wife, he now commits himself to a bright new future, almanash she'ani tzaddik, that I am righteous and I will be righteous. It's powerful words that the Gemara is offering us within the understanding of the Emek Yehoshua. It's illustrated by a story that's told of the Maggid of Mizrich. The Maggid once had a student who ultimately grew up and left a life of observance. It was before Yom Noram. The Maggid wanted to see this man. So he called his shamash. He told the shamash to go and ask that person to come to his office. The shamash returned empty-handed. The fellow had no interest, didn't want to come at all. And so ultimately the shamash is told by the Maggid. The Maggid says, prepare my coat, my walking stick. I want to see this person. The shamash says, what are you doing this for? He's not interested. Rabbi, you'd be better off staying here. The Rabbi wouldn't hear of it. And so the Maggid goes ahead, makes his way to the door, knocks on the door, ultimately goes in. The student, who's now an older man, He's shocked. He can't believe, what is the Rebbe doing here? He's so uncomfortable. And ultimately they're sitting at the table and there's silence. You could perceive it. And ultimately the man looks up, staring at him with his eyes, which are so full of sorrow and sadness and disappointment. The Maggid's piercing look ultimately overwhelmed this man, and he begins to cry, and he's broken. And he calls out to the Rebbe, he says, Rebbe, he says, I want to go back. I want to go back. The Maggid looks at him, says, my student, no, you can't go back. But Rebbe, you always spoke about doing Teshuva. I want to go back. The Maggid turns to him, and with the words that really echo the line of Gemara, Almanasha Ani Tzadik, the Maggid says to him, my student, you can't go back. You can only go forward. For all of us, certainly preparing ourselves for that Yom of Kapara, that of Yom HaKippur, what's before us, especially now during this AseresYemei Teshuva, is that determination in our hearts, in our soul, to declare Almanas Shani Tzadik, that Mikan Haba, we declare that tikkun, that ultimately will bring us to that higher level that we will, Mitzvah Hashem, achieve together as individuals this coming Yom Kippur. But before we get to that level of kapara, we commit ourselves to the tikkun of Mikan Haba, blazing a new path forward.